I don't think Philip and Maxim need any introduction, but I think for those who don't know you, I think maybe a sentence, Maxim and Philip, I think would help the audience.
I'm Philip Weiner, the CEO of Asia Pacific for bolttech, so that's looking after everything from Japan down to New Zealand. So very happy to be here, and thank you to the OIC for inviting me and giving me the opportunity. For those of you who aren't aware of bolttech, bolttech is part of the wider InsurTech industry, where we exist, like I think most of the companies here do, to reduce the protection gap and to be able to give customers more protection and the right protection that they need. For the industry, we do that through connectivity and being a connection layer between large corporates and insurance companies. And so hopefully today, I'll share a little bit more about how we use the cloud for that.
Thanks, Maxim and Philip. And for those who don't know me, I think my name is Prakhar Sureka. I'm a partner in Wyman. Wyman is a management consulting firm, and I focus on consumer banking for Southeast Asia. And Philip, I think your take on the business side, as Maxim said, we see new business models, embedded insurance, digitally enabled agents, customer portals, self-serve channels, and so on. So where do you see this going? Do you still see interplay between legacy and cloud to remain, or is it most of them moving towards cloud, new business models taking over traditional models? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I mean, I think it becomes the world in which, if anybody is starting something now, nobody's doing it on-prem, right? Nobody even thinks of it. It's not even a question, right? It's just maybe they'll ask which cloud to use, right? But they're not going to ask should they use the cloud, right? And the more legacy providers are also looking at, how can they strategically, start moving into that world. I think that's the horse has left the stable, the train's left the station, whatever expression you want to use. That is the inexorable direction that we're going. And it's consistent with, I would say, the wider trends of humanity. If you look at humanity and where we are today, it's all about specialization. And companies are all about specialization. We're about doing what we know how to do really, really well, and leaving it to other companies to do what they do really, really well. And that is, the kind of, when I think about cloud, that's exactly it. Most of the companies in this room, with one exception, don't have a clue how to really do infrastructure and how to actually run a data center and anything like that. Let's leave it to the experts to do that. What do we know, right? We know how to protect customers, right? We know what kind of risks they're facing. You don't know that, right? But that's why the partnership works. That's why the connectivity works. And that's why our philosophy at bolttech, right, is all about this connectivity, right? It's about, we're stronger together. More connections is going to make it, much easier for customers to get what they need at a low cost. And so I really think it's just one directional that it's going.
And I think you put it really well. I think in my own experience advising clients, no one who's starting out would want to go with on-prem. But even legacy businesses, the question for them is not if I should go, but when should I go, and how far should I go? And I think, Maxim, your take on what's the pace of that? What's the pace of that? What's stopping them from going on cloud? Because there's still a lot of legacy in legacy businesses, if I use that term. So it's how do you see that happening in your conversations with those behemoth or the conglomerates that, insurers and financial services?
What I think is also a trend that I'm noticing across is that a lot of the firms are also much more willing not to just do it all themselves, right? And this is really the opportunity for the InsurTechs in the room, and I think there's a lot of them based on the booths I saw outside, right? And for the InsurTechs in the room, the opportunity is to have that conversation with the traditional insurers and say, look, we are here to help you. We are here to cooperate with you, to enable you. I think that, if you look back in the history of technology, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, the word was disruption. Everybody talked about, I'm going to disrupt your industry, I'm going to whatever. But most of the InsurTechs, and probably every single one of the InsurTechs that I saw out front, their goal is not to disrupt the insurers. Their goal, and our goal, is to actually make the insurers better and more powerful, right? And to help them in this transition. And it's very hard for an insurer to make that move. It can be a mindset thing. It can be, what the staffing is. It can be a risk tolerance item. There's all sorts of reasons that slow them down. And that's the opportunity for us InsurTechs. How can we speed them up?
What do you see, like why would someone want to do cloud beyond efficiency? New product development shorter, yes. I mean, you can do better for, like beyond efficiency, like is it about product developments, new business models that you can't do? Is it like about agentic AI? It's like, what is it beyond efficiency purely that you would say, like, why would someone want to embrace it?
So let me be like, who am I, my backgrounds, right? I am not a tech person, okay? So I have no clue about any of the tech stuff. So I'm gonna say a bunch of things that's probably completely incorrect. But how do I think about that question? I actually, part of me doesn't care if it's in a cloud or in a giant on-prem, right? That's not what brings you speed to market. Now, going to the cloud doesn't just automatically make you have faster, integrations and more AI utilization. It does. I don't think that that's true. It makes it easier for you to focus your time on those things because you don't have to worry about the backup generator because you can't afford to have the system go down. Why? Because they got backups all over the world, whatever, everything is there. You get all these safety elements, IT security. There's just a lot that kind of comes, and I'm gonna free with the cloud, right? We pay for it, but it comes free. And so I think it allows you to focus on other stuff. But it's not the cloud. If you want to go faster, don't migrate to the cloud and then think the next day you're going to go faster. You actually have to really look at your processes internally. You have to look at your mindsets, and you have to look at your core technology. Is it being is it built in a monolithic structure where one change impacts 1,000 different lines of code? Or is it built in this microservices structure where I can make a change over here, I can improve this, and I don't have to test a million different things because I know that's going to happen and work, right? And you have to, if you don't have that core architecture of your code, cloud or on-prem, it's not going to save you.
And Philip, I think this may not be a cloud question, but it's good to get your view. I think from an InsurTech perspective, it is like what Maxim laid down 3 areas, and if you focus on the first one, distribution, and distribution of complex insurance product, do you think how would customer perceive it? Life insurance, you still want the feel of a person. Like is it so much about technology enabling it, or is it so much about getting that human touch feel and of it? What's your take on digital business InsurTechs disrupt? I mean, if I use the word disrupting that part of the business where I think you really want human contact.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about the world of distribution. I think there are a number of ways in which technology can allow insurance to be distributed without necessarily heavy human touch. But it's not going to happen all at once, and it's not going to hit your super complex products first. It's going to start simple and move as customers gain the comfort. But the key technologies that I think are relevant in that space, first is you have to understand your customer, right? If you don't understand that customer, then you're not going to be able to offer them insurance which is relevant. You're not going to be able to offer them something that is really suiting their needs. Are going to offer it to them at the wrong time? Don't send me a message right now saying buy insurance. I'm in the middle of a stage presentation. I can't do that, right? You need to know when is the right time. You need to understand what is the offering, and I think that is a really important capability. The contextual correct insurance. And that's actually where insurance companies partnering with corporates is a really, really handy way to get access to that right interaction moment, right? If you're thinking about, if you're buying a house, it's a good time to start talking about home insurance, not a good time to start talking about car insurance. That was what you should talk about when you're buying a car, right? So getting those partnerships together and getting the technology to then enable that partnership. And I think that's sort of the second pillar that I would say that's going to be really important in distribution is, you have to make that journey very seamless for a customer. If they're jumping around a lot, you're not going to get that traction, right? If you need to ask them 1,000 questions about themselves before you're willing to underwrite them, you're not going to get that. And then you have the more advisory side. And that one I start thinking about, like, there's the operational efficiency side too. And I think if you look at the call centers and you go out back and you look at the booths, there's actually 2 booths, and they're almost right next to each other, that are taking a very different approach with call centers. One booth is saying, I'm going to make you have super-powered agents in your call center, right? And it was really cool tech. I don't remember the name, I apologize, but there is a cool booth out there for this. And it basically says, you know, it'll listen to the call, it will give the agent advice on the kinds of things to do, it'll make the agent not have to type manually in, it'll pre-populate things, so that one agent can focus 100% of their time on the customer experience, on what they need to do, they can get calls done faster, etc. Right? It's empower the agent. Go 3 booths over, and there's another booth that's going to replace the agent. All right? And it says, we just do end-to-end Gen AI call center, you don't need a human at all. And I think this is it's really a dilemma within the call center world, which way they want to go. And I think it's similar on the distribution side too. Do you believe in empowering the agent or replacing the agent? And which one? AI can do both-ish. I don't think it can fully replace in every case, but it also can do a lot of empowerment. I don't know, I rambled, but hopefully that was interesting to the audience and relevant to your question.
It was very relevant. All the case studies show that there is a very good collaboration between technologists and so like so-called business people. And I think, Philip, I think, how do you see that relationship evolving? Because in legacy world, it was like, as Maxim said, there's an IT department, and then you go to the IT department and have more compute, more capacity. But now it seems like the world is like not the IT department anymore. It is technologists, business people sitting down. Like any experience from your point of view, I think that you can share with the audience, like how that is evolving, that relationship, how I think everyone needs to be a technologist and business at the same time.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I do say that I don't know, you know, technology, and yet I feel like I have to study it every day. And I think that, you know, for those of us who are on the business side, I think it's our job to get more knowledgeable, right? If you don't know how to spell API, learn, right? Because it's an important technology. If you don't know about agentic guys, go play with them, right? So like you know, my advice would be that you know, as a you know, business person, we've got to learn. We've got to get knowledgeable on these topics. Why? Because if you look at the macro global trends of the world, the reality, you can think about trends on a 2-year basis or on a 5-year basis, but you know, I try to look at trends on a 1,000-year basis, 2,000-year basis, right? And if you look at that, there's one inexorable trend that's been happening, which is that technology keeps changing, right? Whether it's the invention of fire and the wheel, right? Or whether it's the invention of an agentic AI, right? But if you look at as those transformations come in, they have a very big impact. And the companies that win are the ones who are on the cutting edge. Not necessarily, you don't have to develop an LLM. That's just use Gemini. Like, don't develop your own LLM, right? That's not it. But you have to be able to know how to use these technologies, right? You don't have to be the manufacturer of an LLM, right? But you do have to understand, what is this going to do? What is the direction of the world? And when you think about the insurance world and you try to take that crystal ball and you say, what is insurance going to look like 100 years from now? Where is it going, right? Is it going to be in the same world in which, you know, you have a car crash and the insurance pays? Well, is the car going to be driven by you? I don't think so. I don't think in 100 years you're going to drive the car. So what does that mean for car insurance, right? If you're in that auto insurance space, right? And there's a few, as I said, some of those InsurTechs out there, right, which are in auto insurance right now, right? Well, let's think about where that industry is going to be 100 years from now when the car is driving itself. What does that do? What if that car also, you know, as China is recently talking about in this, you know, low altitude economy, right? What if that car can also fly? What does that mean for the insurance industry? If you reflect on those kinds of trends and you reflect on, you know, what are some of the conclusions that you can draw, right? You know, AI is powerful, but not just because it can make a chatbot, right? It is powerful because actually the combination of agentic AI, generative AI, and good old predictive AI, gosh, predictive AI is amazing. If your team is only doing Gen AI, guys, you got to do predictive AI too. It's so valuable. But you know, when I think about this combination, you get into this prediction, which leads you down to prevention. And I think that if I look at the insurance industry 100 years from now, my dream, and I mean this in the kindest way possible to the insurance industry, so hopefully you're all insurance people, so you'll know what I mean when I say this, okay? My dream is that the insurance industry never has to pay a claim, right? And I mean that because they've prevented whatever damage was going to happen in the first place, right? So your car is driving, it stops the car from getting into the accident in the first place, right? There's a wonderful one out front about fire prevention and stopping fires from actually causing damage. I really believe in that world. And I think that the AI and the cloud technologies and learning from each other, learning inside Thailand but outside Thailand as well, that's what's going to get us to that future of, you know, being able to help prevent it. Because at the end of the day, you probably would have rather not broken your leg than have broken your leg and get it paid for. Like, okay, it's nice that it paid for it, but it would have been better not to break it in the first place.
Exactly.
And so I really believe, I'm very, very passionate on preventative world. And so when you talk about that, I think about 100 years from now, what kind of insurance industry do we want to create? And what do we need to build over the next 5 years that's leading us down that path of the industry?
Well, I couldn't have I think that was eye-opening and I couldn't have summarized it better. I do think we have time, like maybe for a question from audience. I think that is it. But I think, Philip, I think very well said. I think preventative economy, I think couldn't have been more inspirational.
Audio Jungle.